exactly what I was saying in the last. Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear, because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah, and I want to discuss that with a little more depth with both of you, including her record on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and other issues that are front and center at the DOJ, and which we know were also big campaign issues this cycle.
Oh, no. MSNBC is big mad. What's new, right? The ultra-woke leftists are freaking out over Trump's new attorney general pick. But the irony is that all of their weeping and gnashing of teeth is happening as Trump is completely shattering the Democrat Party, including that very network, MSNBC. We're going to look at why the left is absolutely collapsing in front of the world's eyes and why the Democrats are already losing the elections of tomorrow today. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. It is a live stream Friday. If I can get my notes here, I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, no longer here to help you stay sane during these insane times as I've been doing these last 3.5 years. No, that is because you, the patriots of this nation, on November the 5th, rose up in defiance of tyranny, and you took your nation back. And that is why I am forever grateful to each and every one of you. But if you want, if you're brand new to this channel and you want to get a front row seat to every single moment of this rising golden age, then make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button, because we're going to be analyzing and celebrating the rise of a new conservative age, a new civilizationalist populist age that you are bringing about both here and abroad. As always, we've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. Just a quick reminder, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, we've been completely demonetized by Google. Maybe that will finally come to an end, depending who becomes AG, I guess. But until then, just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. You can join any one of our levels of support and you have instant access to our very own virtual platform, our censorship-free virtual platform where you can ask me any and all of your questions. No censorship there. I'll be happy to answer them right here on this live stream. So just click on that link below. Go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any level of support that works for you, and you can ask me all your questions, and it'll be my honor to answer them right here on this live stream. So, as I'm sure you all know by now, Donald Trump has nominated his new pick for Attorney General, the Florida Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Now, Bondi, like Matt Gaetz, is not just a Floridian. She's also a major MAGA figure, a Trump loyalist, and a staunch advocate for Agenda 47. And no one appears to be making a better case for her nomination than the ultra-left activists over at MSNBC. Check it out.
Reality TV star, you probably remember Pam Bondi best from her many, many, many appearances on television, and specifically Fox News television. Miss Bondi even filled in as a guest host on Fox 3 times while she was still the sitting Attorney General of Florida. And she spent plenty of time on the network since she left office.
Murderers, rapists from Venezuelan prisoners coming straight into our country. They are coming to a town near you. It should scare and terrify everyone in this country. This is just one big press conference trying to smear Donald Trump, trying to hurt Donald Trump.
We do have evidence of cheating, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but we are still on the ground in Pennsylvania. I'm here right now, and we are not going anywhere until they declare that we won Pennsylvania.
That last clip you saw there was from just after the 2020 election when Pam Bondi was promoting the big lie that Trump had won the election. Bondi was, again, part of Trump's legal team that tried and failed to prove Trump's election conspiracies in court, filing multiple lawsuits on Trump's behalf in battleground states. And she has been one of his most loyal foot soldiers ever since then. She even stood by Trump's side during his Manhattan criminal trials and defended him outside the courthouse.
Listen, all the rights here, I'm a prosecutor, former prosecutor. Yeah, all the rights here go to the defendant because it's his liberty at stake, and that has not been happening in this courtroom. This case should have never, ever been brought.
All of that is why Donald Trump chose Pam Bondi to be his pick for Attorney General. She will be every bit the loyalist that Matt Gaetz would have been, just with a little more legal experience and a little less baggage.
Ooh, so as you can see, the ultra woke warriors over at MSNBC, who are looks like they're about to all get fired, but we'll talk about that in a mere moment, are big mad at this. They do not like Ms. Bondi. Now, as we talked about extensively in our live stream last night, we are going to have to see as this plays out if this was indeed some 4D chess, not just on Trump's part, but on Matt Gaetz's part as well, especially if Matt ends up being either a key point man in the Justice Department or Florida's newest senator. The fact that Trump picked Bondi so quickly after Gaetz's withdrawal and the fact that she's such a loyalist to Trump suggests to me that we're looking at 4D chess. I think everything on the surface suggests that this was all planned. I'm sure you guys will have questions for that as we go along in our live stream. We can get into that more detail. I could flesh out to you precisely why I do think this is 4D chess. I want everyone to keep in mind here that this is not 2016 anymore. This is 2024. This is a new era. Trump knows what he's doing. Trump knows what he's doing. And just as importantly, his people know what they're doing. Don Trump Jr. knows what he's doing. Laura Trump obviously knows what she's doing. Mike Watley at the RNC knows what he's doing. Elon Musk knows what he's doing. RFK Jr. knows what he's doing. Tulsi Gabbard knows what she's doing. And the very fact that the radical left is freaking out over this latest appointment or, this nomination suggests to me that Trump most certainly knows what he is doing here. And I think it's very important that we see the big picture of what's happening, of how Trump is indeed right now, as we speak, effectively breaking apart the Democrat Party. Because if he is effectively shattering the Democrat Party as well as the legacy media, then that is all precursor to a shattering the deep state as well. I want to say that again, because again, I think it's all interconnected. If he is effectively shattering the Democrat Party, as I'm going to show he is, as well as the legacy media, as I'm going to show you he is, then that is all precursor to shattering the deep state and draining the swamp as well. So it's all interconnected. Now, if you've been with this channel for some time, and if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. But if you've been with us for some time now, then you'll know that our analysis of the absolute Trumpian brilliance of 2024 and the ascendancy of MAGA 2.0 centers around a twofold dynamic that Donald J. Trump and only Donald J. Trump brought to the Republican Party. On the one hand, Trump pivoted to the left on economics, while at the same time, on the other hand, he pivoted right on culture. And the combination of these two pivots realigned politics all across the nation, giving Trump the biggest Republican win since 1984. right? I talked about this with Rich Barris yesterday. This is a much bigger win than 88 when George Herbert Walker Bush won 40 states and 400 electoral votes. That was not his coalition. That was a borrowed coalition. That was the Reagan coalition, right? George Herbert Walker Bush was just a custodian of it, and a very bad one at that. He thwarted it. Within 4 years, that coalition split, with the populist wing going with Ross Perot, and then, of course, Pat Buchanan prior to that. What we just saw in November, on November 5th, was a true, bona fide Trumpian realignment. That was a true, bona fide Trumpian coalition that was in the making of 2016. It grew in 2020. Remember, Trump is the first president, the first incumbent to actually win more votes in his second go-around in his re-election bid, but was the first one to win more votes but lose the election. Kind of strange, huh? But nevertheless, this is a coalition that began in 2016, grew in 2020, but then hit its promise, its fulfillment now in 2024 with the biggest landslide win for any Republican president in 40 years. So what has that pivoting left on economics amassed, right? This is what we have to ask. As part of this massive coalition, what did pivoting left do to assemble a coalition like that? We've talked about this constantly over the last several months. By embracing more pro-union, pro-tariff, pro-New Deal FDR economic policies, Trump effectively realigned both the white, and here's the key, non-white working class around him. That's what accounts for Trump's inordinate strength in 2024. Again, we've talked about this a lot. By realigning the rural white working class around himself back in 2016, 2020, he maximized his own base in 2024. It just grew on that rural white working class vote. But at the exact same time, in attracting more non-white working class voters than any Republican in half a century, Trump was able to minimize the margins that the Democrats got from their urban base. And we saw that most especially in, like, for example, Miami-Dade, where he actually won Miami. He actually won. Or in parts of Queens and the Bronx, where he won districts. Solid blue districts turned red for Trump. So Trump solidified, and we saw it as well in the Rio Grande counties in Texas that were always solid blue, that suddenly then turned around and voted for Trump by double-digit margins. So Trump solidified and maximized his rural base from 2016 to 2020, but now in 2024, he siphoned off a record number of non-white working class urban voters so as to minimize the Democrats' base. So he maximized his own base, all the while minimizing the Democrats' base. That's the secret sauce to his win. Pivoting left on economics gave Trump a working class realignment, particularly in the key blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, that effectively boxed out the Democrats from any chance of winning the Electoral College. But ironically, that's just half of it. That's just that there's another key ingredient to the secret sauce of MAGA dominance in 2024, and that's the pivoting right on cultural issues. And the brilliance here is that if pivoting left on economic issues realigned the working class around the new Trumpian Republican Party, in effect stealing away the Democrats' base, pivoting right on culture issues split apart whatever remained of the Democrats' base. Again, this is what made 2024 so spectacularly brilliant, politically speaking. Pivoting left on economic issues stole away the historic foundation of the Democratic base, the working class, while pivoting right on culture split apart whatever remained of that Democrat base. So what do I mean by pivoting right on culture? Well, again, we've talked about this a lot on a number of videos. Take any woke issue you want out there. I don't care. Pick any one. Pick any one. We could do a blind test. I could put my hand in a jar and pick out any woke issue. Biological men using women's room, biological men competing in female sports, CRT in the classroom, doesn't matter. Take any woke issue out there. You poll that issue, and you'll find that 50% of the left supports that, but 50% of the political left opposes it. 50% of the left will support it, but 50% of the left will oppose it. The Bill Maher left, right? The Piers Morgan left. They will oppose it. However, you poll the right on that same issue, and how many would support it? 0. How many would oppose it? Yeah, 100%. In other words, more people are likely to vote against a woke issue than are to vote for it. This is the brilliance of the new Trump, MAGA, populist Republican Party. As long as it pivots left on working class economic issues and pivots right on cultural issues, it promises to be the single most dominant political realignment our nation has seen since FDR's New Deal. So if this is the heart of what happened in November, it should be no surprise that the Democrats are shattering precisely around these very lines. What we are seeing are Democrats pointing the proverbial finger at their own party leadership that lost the white and non-white working class vote. All the while, at the very same time, the Democrats are being forced to double down on woke issues that only further alienates more voters from them. And even Democrats themselves are starting to point fingers over all of this. Wait until you see the blame game. Oh, butter the popcorn. You're going to love this. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, any questions you like, because YouTube has unfortunately suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Join any one of our levels of support, whatever works for you, and you have access to our own censorship-free virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Also, our country witnessed a moment we'll never forget. We saw a man get shot, stand up, fist in the air, and in defiance, scream out in Braveheart fashion, "Fight!" Now, sadly, too many of us have lost ours. We've lost our fight, and that's exactly how the globalists want it. They want us weak. They want us out of shape. They want us full of estrogen and microplastics. So this is why we are so excited to partner with Chalk. Chalk offers a whole lineup of products formulated to increase your energy, your focus, detoxify your body, and based on clinical studies, boost your testosterone. In fact, the ingredients in the Chalk Male Vitality Stack have been clinically studied to boost free testosterone by 87% in just 21 days. Now, unlike with gimmicky vegetable pills or powder, you're going to feel the difference, and they have the clinical studies to back it up. And right now, you can get 25% off your Chalk subscription for life. You heard that right, for life. So just go to chalk.com, that's spelled CHOQ.com. Use the promo code Turley. It's 25% off any subscription you like for life, and you can cancel anytime. Chalk is made in America, and their all-American customer service team is standing by to assist you. Gang, it is time to make men's vitality great again. Get Chalk today. That's CHOQ.com, CHOQ.com, promo code Turley, or you can text them or call them at 50-CHOQ 3000. Cool. 50-CHOQ 3000. That, gang, are scenes coming out of the newly restored Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, one of my all-time favorite cathedrals in all the world. It is so beautiful. And it's not just beautiful, just even from a literary perspective. I believe it's the only cathedral that ever takes center stage in a novel, in The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo, one of my favorite books. Elon Musk just posted this, and it's so beautiful to see our great civilizational wonders being taken care of and restored like this. God bless this cathedral as he has for the last 1,000 years. May there be another 1,000. All right, let's start with the finger pointing here. Here is Brian Williams on the borderline illiterate Stephen Colbert's show, blaming the Democrat Party leadership for losing the working class.
It's insulting when members of the working class, which the Democratic Party has lost entirely in our lifetimes, to insist the economy is doing great. A 12-pack of Bounty is $40. Rich folks don't feel that. Poor folks already switched to Sparkle during the COVID, during the lockdown. And I think telling them that the NASDAQ is gangbusters is further insulting. It's insulting. I think the biggest unforced error of the Biden administration by far was the border. To tell people it's not a problem is insulting. For the working class to see incoming migrants getting welcome bags, debit cards, and motel rooms is probably insulting as well. So there's a lot of work to do. You know, it was when they handed out camo hats that said Harris Walls, and the Democrats they were kind of charmed by that. Their party has gone quinoa, and the rest of America's eating at Cracker Barrel. And so it was kind of an ironic use of something millions of Americans put on their heads to start their day every day. Yeah, they need to reach out to America again and be less about what's called suicidal empathy, worrying so much about minority groups in society and in your party that you win the argument, but you don't win the election.
Now, that was a very interesting term. You win the argument, but you don't win the election. Yeah, right. That was a very interesting term, suicidal empathy. And if we were blunt, that's a term he's using to describe what we all know more commonly as wokeness. And I'm very glad he sees he's equating the terms suicidal with wokeness, right? Everything woke turns to dung, as King James would say. What he's talking about there with suicidal empathy is how wokeness, in effect, sanctifies. It literally makes sacred. It makes holy a number of victim groups, what proponents of wokeness see as historically marginalized groups, which ironically ends up creating a whole new system of inequalities. It ends up creating a whole new kind of caste system where sanctified groups are given special rights and privileges, all the while the supposedly historically oppressor groups, namely white heterosexual men, are subject to incessant stigmatization, being constantly accused of racism, patriarchy, cissexism, and like. I mean, we need look no further than any typical day on Brian Williams' own network, MSNBC. You may have seen this headline. It just came out yesterday after the sentencing of Laken Riley's killer, her brutal murderer. Because he's an illegal immigrant, and if you're listening by way of our 20 million podcast downloads, it says, and this is an actual headline, Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. That is an actual headline. That is not from the Babylon Bee. That is a real headline coming from MSNBC. They have so sanctified victims, the so-called undocumented migrants, that even if an undocumented migrant has been convicted of committing a murder, the very legal process by which he was convicted itself would be questioned in terms of its fairness and equity. That's what Brian Williams is calling suicidal empathy. Or a better word is insanity, of which his own network is the most shameless purveyor 24/7. And that's where so many Democrats are frankly missing it big time. Red State had a great article this morning on how so many Democrats are blaming their loss on bad messaging. We just didn't get our message. If only we had an X. They actually think that they simply didn't communicate their ideas well enough to voters. But many are pointing precisely to things like the Laken Riley horror tragedy as evidence that voters understood the Democrats loud and clear. Their problem wasn't a messaging problem. It was a policy problem. Voters despised what the Democrats were selling. That's the irony. Voters were getting the message loud and clear. Voters were seeing in real time with their own eyes the practical outworkings of the very ideas many Democrats thought were not being effectively communicated. The problem for them is that those ideas were effectively communicated. Everyone saw the horror at the southern border. Everyone saw the inflation. Everyone saw the cost of living crisis. Everyone saw the joblessness. Everyone saw us creep to the verge of World War III. This was not a communication problem. The Democrats communicated their ideas loud and clear. And it was those ideas and its very communication that was resoundingly rejected on November the 5th. But that said, it's actually much worse than Brian Williams recognizes. I think Williams is only scratching the surface here with the realignment. What I liked about what Brian Williams said there is he recognized the complementarity of the twofold dynamic that's realigning our politics as we speak. The effectiveness of the Trump coalition pivoting to the left on economics while at the same time pivoting right on culture. He recognized the interrelationship between the two, in that the more the Democrats embrace the suicidal empathy, the more they sanctify the victim class of identity politics, the more working class voters are going to be looking for political alternatives, which means that all the Republicans have to do is keep pushing on the soft spot of culture to guarantee further voters exiting from the Democrat Party. And lo and behold, what are they doing today? What is particularly Nancy Mace, Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina, busy doing as of this week? She is forcing the Democrats to double down on their own woke absurdities.
Hey everyone, I seemed to blow up the radical left last night. I filed a resolution that would ban biological men from women's private spaces on the Hill. I'm just getting started, and I've already nowhere near stopping, and the death threats that I'm receiving now aren't going to stop me either. So I've said it before and I'll say it again. Come at me, bro. Or bros in this case. I'm not going to take your threats for an answer, and I'm going to fight like hell for women and girls to keep men out of women's private spaces, to include bathrooms, restrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms, you name it. You are not welcome.
Now, make no mistake, this is no coincidence. This is coming straight out of this new MAGA coalition that's happening, that pivot to the left on economics, the pivoting to the right on culture. So as Mace doubles down on pivoting to the right on culture, who takes the bait? Guess who takes the bait? Guess who shows up? The gift that keeps on giving, the one and only AOC.
Nancy Mace and was Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this? They won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans, is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's gross. I could just see her chewing the gum and pulling it out. It's gross. This is just so gross. Mike Johnson's gross. You just heard that. That is not parody. That is a real politician. That is someone a group of people in New York City sends to Washington, D.C. to represent them. I would love to meet those people and just, I don't know. I just probe them for a little bit, just for an hour. Can you imagine the faces of the reporters that were receiving that drivel, that absolutely insane drivel? That's AOC doubling down on pure woke absurd. That's right. In order to enforce this, young girls who for some reason, 11, 12-year-old girls who for some reason are using the Capitol Hill bathrooms, they're going to have to drop their drawers for male investigators. This is gross. That's AOC just doubling down on pure woke absurdities. Now, the incredible irony in all of this is just a couple of weeks back, this will show you the how they get different talking points. AOC, in many respects, was saying the exact opposite. Check it out.
This debate that people are talking about with this woke thing, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's because we care about trans people, and that's why.
And by the way, only Donald Trump cared about trans people because he was the one running $130 million worth of ads. The Harris campaign said nothing about this issue.
That's right. That's right. And listen, the ads, it's not to even deny the fact that these ads were effective in certain areas. What I think people are paying too much attention to is the first half of that ad, which says Kamala Harris is for they, them. Everyone's focusing on that. They're not focusing on the second half of that ad where he said, Donald Trump is for you.
Yeah.
And Democrats very often in their messaging, they speak in terms and in concepts and not in the second person. I care about you. And political races are not about one candidate versus another candidate. Too often it gets pigeonholed like that. It is a race to convince a person about who cares about you more.
Let me ask you.
Well. By the way, notice again, it's the messaging. But ironically, were AOC to be listening to her former self, to her own words, she wouldn't be talking in ideological abstraction. She wouldn't be talking about how women and girls, who she has yet to intelligibly define, are going to be hurt by this. She would be talking about the issues that matter to you, but she didn't. And this is the brilliance of what Nancy Mace is doing. Nancy Mace is forcing the Democrats to double down on their woke absurdities. And that doubling down on woke absurdities is going to do what? it's only going to further alienate more and more voters from the Democrat Party. And no one is learning that lesson more painfully than the ultra woke activists over at MSNBC. The news, ironically, the news keeps getting worse for this far left propaganda outlet. We talked about this the other day, but things are so bad over at MSNBC. Things have become so toxic. Their ratings have plunged so cataclysmically that executives are officially removing MSNBC as far as possible away from the mothership NBC. So the Wall Street Journal dropped a bombshell report earlier this week revealing that Comcast was planning on spinning off the fledgling ultra-liberal freak show MSNBC. Word on the street is that they are planning to sell it off. They're done with it. They want to sever all ties between MSNBC and NBC. And word is out that they're not even going to allow NBC correspondents on any MSNBC program. They don't even want to be associated with this woke filth anymore. And they're even looking to change the name. They're looking to change MSNBC's name. It's that the brand is that bad. As I understand, they're basically just living off of subscriber fees at this point in the wider, cable news package world. Their ad revenues shriveling up. I mean, like I noted the other day, we actually may in the next year be seeing MSNBC wiped off the face of the planet. And even the borderline illiterates at MSNBC, even they are starting to come to terms with just how badly they have lost. Check it out.
Musk bought X and turned it into the social media arm of the MAGA movement. And we all sat there right in the middle of it during the campaign, possibly not realizing that we're sitting there like fat chickens, just getting attacked all day and just being part of this MAGA messaging. However, the election's over. Everybody's getting smarter and better. I'm not sure that the right idea is to leave Twitter and just go to Blue Sky, a friendlier place, because then we remain in our echo chambers. I don't think that you should necessarily stay in Twitter every day and battle it out and let yourself doom scroll of all the hate coming at you. But I want to see it. I want to read what's happening there, right? And so I think at least staying in those spaces is important because I want to hear the other things.
Eddie,
So even MSNBC, even a broken clock is right twice a day. Even MSNBC is starting to slowly but surely realize we are the mainstream media now. We are the captain now. Not a bunch of elite editorial boards aloof from the wider population. We are the mainstream media. X is now the mainstream media. It's called, what we talked about it the other day. It's called techno-populism, where the decentralization, the technological decentralization of information made possible by the rise of the internet has radically democratized that information, enabling the masses to effectively fact check the fact checkers. We are living in an era of techno-populism where the internet, what scholars would refer to as the telecosm, is indeed increasingly empowering the masses, the people, to bring down and decimate the legacy media institutions that used to have a monopoly over information dissemination, but no longer. Those days are over. And if you can believe it, gang, if you can believe it, the news only keeps getting worse for the Democrats. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine, staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer, it's about living better. And so I've partnered with Beam because they're a health and wellness company that's put in the time and rigorous research to craft science-backed solutions that truly optimize every system in your body from the moment you wake up until you lay your head down to sleep. More specifically, I've been using Beam Dream for a while now, and it has completely changed the way I sleep. I used to toss and turn while my mind raced at night. I just can't shut off my noggin. I don't know why, but since taking Dream, gang, I fall asleep so much faster, and I even sleep all throughout the night. It's an absolute game changer for me. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get the deep sleep you need and deserve. It's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to each and every single night. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. I even wake up before my alarm sometimes, which is like something I never used to do. I have the best deal, gang, I've ever had with Beam. So now is your time to give Dream a try. Shop early access to Beam's Black Friday sale. And get this, you're going to get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. You heard that right. Half off. Don't miss out on this offer. We get the best deals on this channel. It's awesome. Click the QR code on the screen or use the link below to propel your wellness journey into the next stage today. Click on that link below right now or scan that QR code. Love them QR codes. Yeah, I love Beam Dream. Absolutely love it. You're going to love it too.
McCormick to congratulate him on his election to represent Pennsylvania in the United States Senate. As the first count of ballots is completed, Pennsylvanians can move forward with the knowledge that their voices were heard, whether their vote was the first to be counted or the last.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's the Pennsylvania Democrat Senator Bob Casey, or I should say former senator, finally conceding his race to the Republican Dave McCormick after deliberately trying to steal that election. As many of you know, we've been focusing on it in a number of our videos. We've been keeping a very close eye on it, but the Bucks County Election Board tried to get away with counting illegal ballots in the recount, and Scott Pressler is now organizing an all-out effort to unseat every single Democrat on that corrupt board in the next election there. But as things stand, we now officially have 53 Republican senators as of that official concession. And it's only getting worse, gang. That is, if demographics is destiny. Now, we've talked about this a number of times. This is the latest from Chronicles Magazine. Very good article. More and more analysts are recognizing that the Electoral College map is an absolute disaster for the Democrats going forward. And that's because blue states are shedding population and will have less representation in Congress and fewer votes in the Electoral College after the next census. And that next census may actually be brought forward into time and be done within the next year or two, precisely because of how badly it was screwed up in 2020, undercounting red states and overcounting the population of blue states. A number of studies, most particularly from the Brennan Center for Justice and the American Redistricting Project, crunched the numbers and have come to conclusions that will come to an absolute shock if you're a Democrat. Get this, states that voted for Kamala Harris this year are set to lose 12 seats in the House of Representatives and an equal number of presidential electors. And this will be official as of 2030, according to both groups' extrapolations from the Census Bureau data. California is on track to lose 4 congressmen and electoral votes. New York will lose 3. Illinois will lose 2, while Oregon, Minnesota, and Rhode Island will each be going down 1. Solidly Republican, deep red states are going to get most of the gains, with Texas picking up 4 congressional seats and electoral votes, Florida acquiring 3, and Idaho, Utah, and Tennessee each adding 1. So what does all of that mean? Well, in an era when control of Congress depends on razor-thin and sometimes single-digit margins, the net loss of 12 seats from reliably Democratic states and the comparable gain of Republican states will give the GOP an edge in the House in all elections for the foreseeable future. And at the presidential level, the effect would be like flipping a mid-sized deep blue state to the GOP. The 12 electoral college votes, what the Democrat states are losing, would equal something like flipping Washington State. Imagine if Washington State went full MAGA red, for example. To drive this point home with the new census map, Trump would be winning today with something akin to 320 to 324 electoral votes. The news is so good that we may be looking at an electoral college situation where a Republican could lose all 3 blue wall states and still easily win the electoral college. And that's not mentioning the fact that the blue wall states are all turning red as we speak. So what's the big takeaway from all this? The big takeaway, gang, is that no matter what is going on minute by minute, second by second at the micro level inside the DC swamp, I want you to keep in mind, always keep in mind the big picture. Trump is effectively shattering the Democrat Party. He has pivoted left on economics, which is causing a major political realignment not seen since the days of FDR among the white and non-white working class. And he's pivoted right on culture, which is splitting what remains of the left, all the while uniting the right. And this is causing not only the Democrat Party to fracture, but the entire Democrat media infrastructure is beginning to crater as well, as we are seeing most explicitly in the implosion of MSNBC. That is what is really happening right now before the world's eyes, if you but have the eyes to see it. And if that's the case, I see all of this as precursor to what Trump is going to do with the deep state, regardless of who he picks for what position. That's, to me, in many respects, irrelevant. The dismantling of the Democrats is just the precursor to Trump ultimately dismantling and draining the swamp. So make sure to go out there and buy some of that, $7 butter that Joe Scarborough was so surprised about the day after the election, because you're going to need it for all the buckets of popcorn you're going to be eating, watching the Democrats' complete and total collapse. Over to you, gang. Over to you as our moderator, Josh, assembles all your questions. If you want to ask me your questions, remember, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below. Join any one of our levels of support, whatever works for you, and you have access to our very own censorship-free virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them right here on this live stream. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Also, gang, you gotta stop putting off what you know you need to do. If you haven't secured the deed to your home as of yet, you need to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. Gang, I was shocked. I was shocked when I was personally shown how easy it is to access the deed to my house. And not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take out tons of loans, sticking you with all of the debt using your home's equity. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in, gang. They're absolutely amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely, totally, completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code TurleyTalks, and all you have to do is enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. That's a $100 value that you're going to get absolutely, totally free with my promo code TurleyTalks. So do not wait for the worst to happen, only to regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. All right, Josh, what do we got? What do we got? Let me get a little sip of coffee. Let me get a little caffeine because I had that beautiful Beam Dream sleep. So now I'm just going to have a little coffee. Love it. Oh, you took it off. Okay, here we go. Paul, could I get your thoughts on the trans craze in this country and what you may think the reasoning behind it may be? What possibly advantage could it hold for the left to indoctrinate our children in this issue or in this direction? In my opinion, this would weaken us as a society and as a country, leaving us vulnerable to our enemies, foreign and domestic. Yeah, great question, Paul. Let's see. I'm trying to put all that in because now you're even bringing in geopolitics there. Let me answer it in the order of the way the question is asked. I think its roots are found in liberalism, and what liberalism fundamentally is about is about the emancipation of a sovereign individual. Liberalism redefines us as sovereign individuals. It's about the emancipation of a sovereign individual from any and all moral restraints, from exercising our own personal freedom. So it defines freedom radically negatively. Classically speaking, freedom had two aspects to it, two sides of the coin, a negative and a positive. Isaiah Berlin, the philosopher of Harvard, talks about this often. But this goes all the way back to Plato and the like. Negative freedom is a freedom from arbitrary control, manipulation, constraint. But positive freedom is a freedom for. I've been given freedom so as to cultivate a virtue to do what is good because it is good to be good. In other words, I've been given a freedom to conform myself freely, right? God loves a cheerful giver, right? A free will to cultivate myself in conformity with the true, the good, and the beautiful. So a way of putting this biblically is that Israel is saved from the bondage of Egypt and then saved to the redemption at Sinai. So we're saved from and we're saved to. Freedom from, freedom for. And liberalism's fatal flaw, it seems to me, one of them is that it defined freedom solely negatively. And so if my highest good is found in being emancipated from any and all restraints, eventually that's going to get insane. Eventually, I am going to want to be emancipated from truth because truth is something that imposes itself upon me. I'm going to want to be emancipated from reality. And so what I found a key observation I made in this election is that it really did appear, and I think one of the reasons why the left is going so nuts right now, so it really did appear the left wanted to be lied to. They wanted to believe the Ann Seltzer poll. They actually wanted to be lied to. They because they can't handle reality, right? The Jack Nicholson thing. You cannot handle the truth. Their reality is fabricated because they've been in effect emancipated from truth, emancipated from what's real. I think that's the big picture. And as part of that, they want to be emancipated from gender norms. And that's where all of that, I think, comes in. In terms of why would anyone want to do this, I think the globalist managerial class wants an obedient, obedient population that does not resist the reconfiguration of life around refeudalized norms. So less and less people are owning more and more things, right? So 5 years ago, 400 billionaires owned 50% of the world's assets. Today, it's only about 100 billionaires. So less and less people are owning more and more things that are effectively pushing us out of the ownership class, and we're becoming serfs. We're becoming renters. But of course, we are going to want to push back against that. And in order to minimize the resistance, they are actively promoting, the managerial class is actively promoting a new kind of fundamentalism, a new kind of religious fundamentalism that in the form of wokeness that by definition does not allow for dissent. You're not allowed to dissent. Dissent is blasphemy. Right? As Alan Lichtman would say, don't blaspheme me. Right? Is when Cenk Uygur and he were going at it the other day on the Piers Morgan show. Dissent is blasphemy. Dissent is heresy. And heretics, by definition, must be excommunicated, hence cancel culture. So they are there to keep us weak. Now, you might say, okay, but a weak population is susceptible to foreign invasion. Hence why globalists need to maintain their power over the world order. And hence why what Russia is doing in Ukraine, for example, or what China is doing possibly with Taiwan is so unacceptable. Because it's the breaking away, it's decoupling itself from the globalist world order and rendering that world order defeated, irrelevant. So they need to keep the liberal international order in place so as to prevent them from being invaded, as it were. But they know that their population is incredibly weak. But as long as they maintain the power structures over the world, as long as the world is ruled by a singular managerial class, then you don't have to worry about foreign invasion because nobody does anything apart from their permission. The very fact that now we're seeing India, China, the whole of Middle East, Turkey, Russia rising up and telling the globalist managerial class where they can stick it is freaking them out because it's just making the whole thing crash. And the very fact that MAGA forces are rising up, telling them to stick it, makes it even worse. So that would be my answer to that. Thank you, Paul. ROT Corp, Dr. Turley, good freedom morning, Turley Talkers. Yay. Black Sabbath. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, no, paranoid. There you go. I had Iron Man going at first. There you go. Little Black Sabbath, paranoid. Thank you, RT Corp. Absolutely. Eric the Red. For the good doctor, regarding your noticing less preference for lies. Look at that, over facing the sometimes bitter truth. Did not cross your mind the allegory of the Matrix movie series, where most people likewise opt for the blue pill instead of the red? Even the colors match red. Red blood carries oxygen, blues without it. Wow, that's very cool. One of the reasons behind my name choice here. I love it, Eric. Can we, as your collective Neo students, call you Morpheus from now on? Try to be Morpheus. Yes, I'm definitely not Neo. I think maybe Elon Musk is Neo here, right? Like Neoplatonism, I believe it's named after. It's kind of a Neoplatonist descent. As I understand it, the Matrix is a sci-fi version of Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Check out where it's Allegory of the Cave. I think it's book 8 of the Republic. It's either book 4 or book 8. I think or book 7. Oh, I can't remember. You can look it up. Just Allegory of the Cave. But no, I'm with you. That's great. That's a great analogy. I don't think most people. So we're kind of cyberpunk. The way the red pillars are depicted in the Matrix or cyberpunk. Where the vast majority have taken the blue pill and are living in a simulated reality, what Jean Baudrillard would call the simulacrum. I don't think it's the majority anymore. I don't think it's cyberpunk anymore. Or you could just say the majority's gone cyberpunk. I think most people see it. I think most have seen it. The white, non-white working class are seeing it. And even increasingly, people like Piers Morgan, although he's still blindingly wrong when it comes to Ukraine. Nevertheless, I think vast majority are seeing the reality now that we've been duped these last 4 or 5 decades. And now it's time for a civilizationless world to rise. Kevin, if President Trump would just straight up say that we got the 3 branches now for the next 2 years, and he's going to do what he says, and if his promises aren't getting through in a timely manner, what are your thoughts on the F? I don't know what my thoughts are on the F. That's all we got for Kevin. No, Trump is going to get what he wants. I don't think you have to worry about that. That's again why I think the whole Matt Gaetz thing was 4D. I have to be honest with you. I really do. I think it was 4D. There may be more to it going on behind the scenes than we ever imagined. But I don't think we have to worry about Trump getting what he wants done. And Pam Bondi would be great. Pam Bondi would be amazing. She's a Trump loyalist. That's all he needs at the DOJ. Oh, there he goes. That continued. It is the Republican traitors that are doing it, and their senators representing Congress. Yes. Now that I'm going to agree with you on senators. It's going to be senators. They live in their own House of Lords, world. That is as decrepit to the core. Just watch Braveheart. It's Robert the Bruce's, I believe it was his father that was the leper that's in the room in the dark, in the shadows, that's really calling the shots, right? The deep state that's really telling him what to do. And that it's that kind of elitist pragmatism that we do what's right and good for the aristocracy, not the people. That's the prevailing culture inside the House of Lords, Senate. Doesn't matter who's in charge of it. But I don't think you have to worry about it too much. I don't in the end. This is going to be a very powerful and very strong presidency. No question about it. Again, everything the Democrats are flipping out and freaking out about right now is to basically, lay the groundwork to just accuse every little thing he does, even when he goes to maybe Starbucks to get a coffee, accuse every little thing he does as being, Weimar Germany, or, they know what's coming, and they're trying to already paint it in the worst possible light. And the best thing that Trump could possibly be doing is just laughing at them and going full speed ahead. And he's showing every indicator, particularly with Vivek and Elon by his side. He's showing every indicator that's exactly what he's going to do. And Republicans had better get in line, or let's crush them and let's make building up a whole new party part of our 2028 platform, or our 2028 goals, and just leave them in the dust. They need to know all the momentum and all of the leverage is now in the hands of Trump. Quark, looking at the geopolitical world of war and peace, what are your encouraging thoughts on the conflict of Ukraine and its potential impact on things here domestically that would play out before January to stop war and provide peace? Putin's sanity. Putin being a very, very shrewd, very keen geopolitician. He knows this is just desperation on the part of the liberal international order. He knows that. And I don't think he's worried about it at all. They've got their hypersonic missiles, as we're seeing. It does look like he did confirm that, apparently, in a speech from the Kremlin the other night, that those were hypersonic, non-nuclear hypersonic missiles that he sent into Ukraine. They can keep going up the escalation ladder. He knows that. The powers that be in NATO know that. They got nothing. They're not the most particular. They're not the brightest bulbs on the planet. They're going to make some dumb mistakes, and that's the way I think Putin is looking at it. I think he looks at them as a bunch of Mark Millies, bunch of woke morons who are the past, and a new MAGA era is coming in the West, and maybe we can even finally dismantle NATO. I think he sees that, and I think he's going to be very patient, and he's just going to wait it out, and that's what gives me hope. Nothing in NATO gives me hope. I think they're a bunch of woke nuts that need to be fired immediately, and I personally would love to see NATO dismantled at this point. I don't think it's totally unfit for purpose at this point. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, Chateau Latiers is working 24/7, bottling liberal wines since the election day. Do you think this was Trump's original plan for AG to get Matt Gaetz into the Senate? I do. You check out my live stream last night, Rock Dog. I kind of laid it out more really in detail there. But the basic structure of the argument for 4D is that Matt Gaetz' resignation came out of nowhere, but Trump clearly gave it the green light. The nomination of Pam Bondi was almost immediate. The linchpin argument for me is that Trump could have appointed Gaetz no problem as a recess appointment. That's what Tom Massey himself said. The appointment was a done deal because Trump could do it in recess appointment. He got that concession from John Thune so that John Thune could become Senate Majority Leader. So what it looks like Trump did is he used the concession he got from Thune on recess appointments as leverage to get senators to agree to put in Pam Bondi behind the scenes, when they would have, in point of fact, been extremely hesitant to do had he gone the normal route, given how ultra MAGA Pam Bondi has been, especially with the whole 2020 thing and the whole fallout from that election. And given that there's an empty Senate seat now in Florida, Gaetz can easily be given that seat. So if Gaetz is given that seat, I think we should be sure this was all 4D chess in the end. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Benton, Dr. Steve, we discuss the implications of the Dastardly Act. Biden is giving the Ukraine landmines and the use of immediate-range ballistic missiles. The Democratic elites hate the MAGA movement so much they would risk World War III with Russia. Russia has threatened to use tactical nuclear weapons. Tactical nukes had the kill radius of three-quarter miles. The Hiroshima bomb was 9 kilotons. That would equal a tactical nuke. Yeah, no, I hear you, Brent. That's why my hope is in. Well, first of all, so Putin's threats are there to remind NATO of the futility of what they are doing. Nothing good is going to come out of this. We are the largest nuclear power on the planet. And nuclear power, being a superpower, negates the escalation ladder. The only way escalation ladder works in any conflict is if one side is able to escalate above the other. If one side is able to escalate above the other, if one side is able to escalate farther than the other side can, then they have all the leverage, right? That's how we got Japan to surrender, for example, in World War II. You know, we bluff, but, surrender or we're just going to keep nuking you. And they didn't have a nuke. So what Putin is reminding NATO of is this: you don't get into a conflict with a nuclear power because we get to a point where we obliterate each other and we've removed the escalation ladder. The escalation ladder is no longer a basis for leverage. So we can't end this conflict. We'll just keep going till we obliterate each other. I don't think he has any intention of obliterating the West. I think his intention is to remind NATO this is futile, and they're not intimidated by anything NATO does, and that they're just going to wait out the next couple of months until Trump comes in, and Putin knows he can do a good deal with them. Now, they're making it harder. They're making it harder to do a deal. That's for sure, and that they're intentionally doing so. They've done this before. Remember when Biden was vice president back in 2016, John Kerry, then Secretary of State, passed a UN resolution that basically redrew the Israeli map to pre-1967 borders before Trump came in to office. This is back in January of 2017, saddling Trump with a geopolitical mess that he had to untangle. It's irrelevant where you come with Israel's map. The problem with that is you do not engage. You do not deliberately leave the incoming administration as part of the peaceful transference of power. You do not leave the incoming administration with that kind of crisis. So these long-range missiles, the ATACMS, they're going to make negotiating peace that much harder, precisely because Putin's demands, in that he's in the driver's seat, are going to be all the more escalated. So yes, I think it's ridiculous. But given Putin's, I think, very measured and very even keel disposition, I think we're going to be okay. Kathleen, they are saying Minnesota is now going to be a swing state. Do you think we could finally turn it red in 2028? I do. I was just talking about this with Rich Barris. Check out my interview with Rich Barris that I did the other day. Yeah, it is by definition a swing state now. It just hasn't gone red in so long. So people kind of dismiss it. And because the population in Minnesota, and I don't mean this in a mean way, I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but it's very peculiar. I mean, meaning it's unique. And it does tend to, in the end, default Democrat when it could easily default Republican, given the working class realignment. But no, when you're winning by low single digits, that's by definition a swing state, because it's bringing you within range of the margin of error, and the margin of error by definition could go either way. It could swing. So I think Minnesota has been consistently over the last several cycles voting to the right of Virginia, for example. So everybody's keeping their eye. Oh, we can turn Virginia back. No, go to Minnesota. Minnesota is definitely a swing state for 2028, as is New Jersey. Scott Pressler is already bringing something akin to what Cliff Maloney, well, he's doing his early vote action, but brings something akin to what Cliff Maloney was doing in Pennsylvania with the PA chase. I think they'll be doing something akin to the NJ chase, and trying to have the 1 million Democrat voter registration advantage in New Jersey to about 500,000. And if they can do that, they can take that 5% margin that Kamala won in 2024. They could probably bring that down to turning New Jersey red. It's that astonishing. Same with New Hampshire. Same with Maine. We could do that with Maine as well. So if we could solidify the 7 swing states right now as solid red, like what we're seeing happening with Florida, Ohio, Iowa, those were swing states. They're now solid red. We're talking they're voting red double digits. If we could do that in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and at least one of the, all the problems, all the blue all states generally vote the same. They almost always vote the same, all three. So if one goes deep red, all three go deep red. If we could do that, we've shut out the Democrats from executive power for a generation. It's over. Move the swing states now. Exactly what you're saying. Minnesota, New Mexico, Virginia, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Maine. Move it over to there. We've got this. MAGA will be ascendant for the next generation. But do not discount how easy it is for Republicans to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. Franz, was the Matt Gaetz nomination a head fake so Trump could set up Rubio as Secretary of State like he did with appointing Nikki Haley as UN ambassador, so that Henry McMaster could become governor, leaving DeSantis to appoint Gaetz as senator? We'll have to see. That's what I mean. The way this plays out over the next few weeks, we're going to find out whether or not that was a serious head fake 4D chess. I personally believe right now it was. They all knew. There's a couple of linchpins. One linchpin is the fact that Trump could have appointed Gaetz no problem in a recess appointment. And he has the power, as I understand it. Was it Article 2? I'm forgetting now. Article 2, Section 8, something like that. He has the constitutional right to suspend Congress, and then during that recess, he can appoint Matt Gaetz. He had that power. He made that clear. He used that as leverage, it seems to me, to be able to get the green light on Bondi. The other, what was the other one? The other linchpin for me is the Matt Gaetz appointment was so controversial because he has virtually no friends on Capitol Hill. You know, when he took out Kevin McCarthy, that was like a no-no, and he knew it. He knew he wasn't making any friends. So that to me, you know, signals that they knew going in he would have no support or would not have the support he needs. They knew that going in. That's why it was so important to get that recess appointment clause, agreement, concession from John Thune. And then it seemed, we thought, oh, that way he's going to appoint Matt Gaetz. No, as it turns out, no, that's going to be his leverage now over making sure Bondi gets in, Pam Bondi gets in, and then Matt Gaetz gets put into either senator or he gets into a senior position to do all the dirty work for Pam. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But I don't think any of that was, don't believe the press at all on that. But that's by definition, you should know that. Don't believe the press on that. I don't think that was a mistake. I think this was calculated. Deborah, why didn't Trump send out supporters to promote and protect Gaetz? So that's Deborah, I think because it was planned. This is a, yeah, I mean, it's great. But again, Pam Bondi will do something. She'll be like even MSNBC is saying it. She's basically Matt Gaetz, but more with a record, right? She's Florida's attorney general and she's brilliant. So I just think, I think it was planned. It was planned this way. Bill, hello, Dr. Steve. What the hell is up with the Jaguar car commercial? I saw that. Oh, my heaven. The corporations going woke have a death wish? Please try to help me understand this. Thank you and your staff for all that you do. Thanks, Bill. We all thank you. Yeah, well, it's a British company that has yet to get... remember, Britain had a blowout election for the left on July the 4th, ironically. That intended to punish the Tories as they should be punished. They were horrific. And we were full supporters of the no seat or zero seats campaign for the Tories. But then what that did is it gave the Labour Party one of their biggest blowout elections. But again, it was just in a century. But it was a protest vote. It wasn't a vote for Labour. It was a vote against the Tories, for example. And so anyway, the spirit among our elite in the UK appears to be one of, victory and celebration that wokeness has won, when it most certainly has not, especially in Britain. Britain is not woke. The vast majority of the populace is not woke. They are compassionate. They're fully democratic. They are empathetic, they are sympathetic, but they are not woke, period. I know I've spent years in Britain. Well, not at extended time in Britain, but I got my doctorate from Britain. They're very rational and very practical people. So I just think this is corporate headquarters misreading Western populations, most particularly their own, to the extent that Jaguar is still located in Britain. For all I know, they're, they've been offshored, but I just think it was a total misreading of the room. How would Scott Jennings put it from CNN? I think Jaguar's corporate leadership walked into the wrong bar. And I think they're about to get Bud lit. They're about to get Bud lighted big time, as they deserve to be. It was, and just the what really got me was when people pushed back on that ridiculous ad. Whoever was in charge of their X account was snarky and dismissive, and rather than listening to their customer base, they argued with them and again treated them with typical woke disdain, and that's only going to destroy them even further. So to me, it's just, yep, they're about to get Bud lighted. ROT Corp. More Turley Talks news machine smash hits. American Patriot. Insane times. Rhinos, Diablos, classified documents. Hint, hint, communists, llamas. Love it. You're giving us all. Yes, these would be all. This would be our top 5. I guess that would be. Very good. Rhinos and Diablos. That's right. Give me Diablos. I like that. Franz, is it fair to say that due to the Harris campaign, that the legacy media and the Democrat Party are now in the Mulvaney area? So this is, they're getting, but yeah, I think so. I think that is a refrain. That would be a meta frame. That would be a meta frame that we're seeing over and over, whether it's Jaguar, whether we're seeing MSNBC falling apart. I guess the one we'd have to tease out what a Mulvaney frame would be, because Mulvaney insulted like a MAGA customer base, right? So, the Bud Light, the Dylan Mulvaney thing, tried to push wokeness on a consumer base that obviously would be the last one on the planet that would go with this. Whereas MSNBC was their consumer base, you would think, wanted this. Maybe what we can do, and I think Jaguar is doing it as well. And Kamala was trying to impose it upon the country. So I think that works. But I don't know with the legacy media, because so much of their audience was all for this stuff. But you have to wonder if the charade of it, the not living in reality part of it, maybe it's just kind of coming, it's crashing down. So maybe it's kind of like, maybe it's kind of like a Bud Light reckoning with reality or something like that. But I think you're onto it. I think Bud Light or Mulvaney, whatever you want to call it, the Mulvaney moment, Mulvaney era, I think that is a meta paradigm that can be used to explain, because that's what you're looking for meta theory, is that it explains a lot of diverse disparate data and kind of makes sense of the whole thing, which is what we tried. That's the whole rationale of this channel. Yeah, that'd be cool. I have to think about that one, Franz, but I do think a Mulvaney era or Bud Lighting is a meta paradigm. And yeah, I think in many ways you could say this election was the Bud Light election for the Democrats. And they're falling apart, just like Bud Light was falling apart. Again, they're still there, but they don't exercise anywhere near the influence of the power that they once did. Same with the mainstream media, legacy media now. Patriot Jules, Dr. Steve, you know how woke my husband is. I know, Patriot Jules. I pray for you. Even he thinks the men with mangina should be able to use women's bathrooms. My Trumpinator Christmas ornament just arrived in the mail. Yes. Can't wait to see it on the tree. Awesome. Very cool. Put Trumpinator up there. Even he thinks that, man, I'm sorry, Patriot Jules. Let's see. Yeah, go back. Does that, do we have something else from Patriot Jules? What's your analysis of the Democrats who pivoted to Republican? Okay. Let me get that. Even he thinks that men should be able to use women's bathrooms. Yeah, I know. I think that's just that's the nature of wokeness. It's emancipation from reality. And again, you just have to be. So for me, I try to be as empathetic as I can and sympathetic, because I love relationships more than being right. I do. And we all should. We should love those who God has given us to be our loved ones in our lives more than we need to be, and more than our egos and the need to be right. But I draw the line where people get hurt. That's where I draw the line. And so that's where I think Kamala wasn't just wrong. I think she was wicked, because I think a lot of people have been hurt under her deliberate abdication of her law enforcement responsibilities at the border. Laken Riley's family is going through a horrific pain and mourning because of what this administration did. So they're not just wrong; they're hurting people. They're destroying. So somebody just believes something like that. I believe they should. Fine, I'll believe it. Fine, I still love you. Merry Christmas, happy Thanksgiving. But the moment you're put in a position where you can actually hurt people, then I'm going to oppose you with every fiber of my being. That's kind of how I make the sense of things. I get that, every once in a while. I'll get that on, like, if I put even on my personal, like, Facebook, I'll mock Kamala, and everyone's like, how can you do that? How could you call yourself a Christian and do that? Because she's wicked. I'm going to mock wickedness. Now, if she were my friend, and by the way, I do pray for Kamala. I pray for Biden pretty much on a daily basis, after I pray for Trump, of course. But I pray for them. It's not an either or. But no, I think they're wicked. I think they've destroyed lives, and I'm going to call them out for that. But if they were my cousin, if they were in my family, I wouldn't be doing that, because your personal relationships should be treasured and revered, and embraced, and over you being right. Right. But so that's where I draw the line. I draw the line between relationship versus real harm and real damage that can be done. And to the extent that Kamala did already real and was going to continue to do real harm and real damage, I openly will oppose her. All right, Patriot Jules, what did you have next? I saw that. What's your analysis of the Dems who pivoted to Republican? Would they be against gun control, against abortion? RFK Jr., Tulsi didn't vote that way. They were for gun control. Yeah, no, I'm with you. We'll have to see how that plays out. They don't have any anything to do with those issues at all. I mean, RFK, you could argue he may have it with abortion, if with the being in charge of what is it, HIS, whatever it is. But I don't think you have to worry about that, because they're gonna implement the policies of President Trump. Why am I saying HHS? I'm having a brain freeze here. They're going to implement the policies of President Trump. You don't have to worry about that at this point. Now, if they want to start engaging in a little bit more of their own campaigns and their own position within the new MAGA Maha Republican Party, all right, then that remains to be seen. I have a sense that they are both, again, as populists now, I have a sense that they want to represent the values, interests, concerns of the vast majority of the country. Vast majority of the country is not abortion radicals. They're not. They're not even close to the Democrats, and they do not want firearms banned, period. So I don't think you have to worry about that. Rock Dog, Dr. C, can Trump fire the 87,000 IRS agents that were hired and send that money to CBP to hire 87,000 Border Patrol agents instead? You, sir, need to send that to Doge. You need to send that proposal to Doge. I believe he most certainly could do that, and I think they will. I think this is why I think they're all so freaked out. This is going to be the biggest deep state dismantling revolution we ever imagined seeing. It's going to be glorious. But of that popcorn. Maximilian, I was thinking about you, Maximilian, the other day. Ooh, how do revolutions work? Okay. So everyone, if you're new to us, Maximilian's one of our deepest thinkers. I love interacting with Maximilian. But he keeps me on my toes. I can't get, I would, in terms of how revolutions work practically, I don't know if I have the expertise or any frames of reference to give you the sense of that. The way I understand revolutions at their heart is they are technically what in cultural anthropology referred to as prophetic movements. So all societies are a cosmovision. And as a cosmovision, as you know, Maximilian, they start in the sacred, and then the sacred, that would be our classical religions, and then the sacred sanctifies the totality of cosmic, social, political, economic, cultural, literature, art, architecture, music, poetry, fashion, so forth, calendar, dynamics in the whole of society. So that's what's known as a cosmovision. And it does tend to be cybernetic. So it's very much like a thermostat. So it has feedback systems. We've talked about all kinds of things like that, where the sacred, it legitimizes and certifies the various institutions, regulations, and authorities that comprise social order, that produce material conditions. And to the extent that populations are satisfied with those material conditions, they will continue to support the sacred that certifies and legitimates the institutions, regulations, authorities that create those material conditions, and so on. If they're not satisfied, they'll push back against the sacred, or they'll push back against the institution, regulations, authorities. So the institution, regulations, authorities might have to push back against the sacred, and it all gets balanced. A revolution happens when things are not working rightly for a certain group of people, and they feel that the feedback loops are getting them nowhere. And so what they do is they break away from that cybernetic, that cosmovision, and they start forming their own kind of on the outside. So I think it's called, prophetic movements named after like a John the Baptist or something, or like the great biblical prophets that stood against the wicked kings and stood against the morally unraveling Israel, that kind of stuff. So they're kind of emancipating themselves from that cosmovision, that cybernetic, and then they stand over and against it. And then you have one of two choices. You either create something wholly new. That's what we talk about a lot with our parallel economy. You create something wholly new, or you storm the castle. You deliberately go try to take over that previously existing cybernetic cosmovision, and then you'll have to change the sacred, or you have to change the institutions, regulations, and authorities that run the sacred and the like. And then if you want to do that, as I understand it, I did a really interesting interview with a military guy who talks about kinetic warfare and non-kinetic warfare. And I'm sure you're probably familiar with this, but kinetic warfare involves actual physical combat, but non-kinetic warfare involves changing perceptions about the cybernetic, changing perceptions about the sacred order. So you start invading the schools and teaching kids to hate your country. You start invading Hollywood and doing movies to make people question the justice of our history, and so on and so forth. The non-kinetic warfare, in many respects, is far more powerful than the kinetic warfare, because it is able to infect, as it were, the whole of society. But that, bottom line, that's what it is. As I understand it, a revolution is a prophetic movement that breaks off from the status quo of the cybernetic cosmovision, and then either tries to create its own cosmovision, cybernetic, or tries to take over, and it takes over largely by infecting it through non-kinetic warfare. And then kinetic warfare, a civil war, whatever it is, can be part of it as well. So there you go. That'll give you some frames of reference to pursue there. Good to hear from you again, Maximilian. Brian, are Murkowski and Collins the only Republican senators who might try to thwart some of Trump's pick? I have a feeling, in the end. Again, this is going to be all the Games of Thrones stuff going on behind the scenes. Remember, they're not ideologically motivated. They're not. They're there. They are to Republicans what Manchin was to Democrats. They're a thorn in the side of Republicans in order to get all of this gravy sent over to Maine and to Alaska, respectively? Or what was your order? Oops, the other way, Alaska to Maine, respectively. That's all it is. This is politics. They don't care. Oh, I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-woman. That's just their posturing. In the end, they will vote any way they need to if you write them a big enough check. They're politicians. Tyler, Dr. Steve, do you think Pam Bondi will get nomination to AG without any shenanigans, especially since Gates withdrew? Yeah, I do. I think so. I think that, again, if this is 4D chess, yes, that would have been baked into the cake of the way the whole thing works. Trump would have gotten the 51 votes she needs before I think actually she only needs 50 votes before he would have nominated her. So, yeah, I think it was all set. Roger, Dr. Steve, shouldn't the euphemism reproductive rights be called non-reproductive rights? Yes. That whole world, that whole political world is so filled with irony today. Wokeness has made such a mess of it, right? What is even a woman? How could you even talk about women's rights anymore? No, I think you're absolutely right. And that's it. All right, gang. You have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thanksgiving next week. So we're not going to be having our live stream next Friday. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks in terms of our live stream Friday. Gang, have a wonderful and beautiful weekend. And if I don't see you on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday on our videos, have a blessed Thanksgiving. And Christmas Advent is almost here. Most wonderful time of the year. Love you guys. We're rocking. Golden age is upon us. Let's rock and roll. Onward and upward. God bless.